Welcome back to another episode of 28 Days of Color presented by S.T.E.A.M Engine Academy. Today's episode, Color and Fitness, has us speaking with Coach Jackson from Crunch Fitness about the importance of fitness and health in the Black community. Then we discuss the Underground Railroad and the people that were key players in helping make it all happen. The Underground Railroad was a network of people, African American as well as white, offering shelter and aid to escaped enslaved people from the South. It developed as a convergence of several different clandestine efforts. The exact dates of its existence are unknown, but it operated from the late 18th century to the Civil War, at which point its efforts continued to undermine the Confederacy in a less than secretive fashion. The Quakers are considered the first organized group to actively help escaped enslaved people. George Washington complained in 1786 that Quakers had attempted to liberate one of his enslaved workers. In the early 1800s, Quaker abolitionist Isaac T. Hopper set up a network in Philadelphia that helped enslaved people on the run. At the same time, Quakers in North Carolina established abolitionist groups that laid the groundwork for routes and shelters for escapees. The African Methodist Episcopal Church, established in 1816, was another proactive religious group helping fugitive enslaved people. The earliest mention of the Underground Railroad came in 1831, when enslaved man Tice Davids escaped from Kentucky into Ohio, and his owner blamed an Underground Railroad for helping Davids to freedom. In 1839, a Washington newspaper reported an escaped enslaved man named Jim had revealed under torture his plan to go north following an Underground Railroad to Boston. Vigilance committees created to protect escaped enslaved people from bounty hunters in New York in 1835 and Philadelphia in 1838 soon expanded their activities to guide enslaved people on the run. By the 1840s, the term Underground Railroad was a part of the American vernacular. Most enslaved people helped by the Underground Railroad escaped border states such as Kentucky, Virginia, and Maryland. In the Deep South, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 made capturing escaped enslaved people a lucrative business, and there were fewer hiding places for them. Fugitive enslaved people were typically on their own until they got to certain points farther north. People known as conductors guided the fugitive enslaved people. Hiding places included private homes, churches, and schoolhouses. These were called stations, safe houses, and depots. The people operating them were called station masters. There were many well-used routes stretching across west through Ohio to Indiana and Iowa. Others headed north through Pennsylvania and into New England, or through Detroit on their way to Canada. The reason many escapees headed for Canada was the Fugitive Slave Acts. The first act, passed in 1793, allowed local governments to apprehend and extradite escaped enslaved people from within the borders of free states back to their point of origin, and to punish anyone helping the fugitives. Some more northern states tried to combat this with personal liberty laws, which were struck down by the Supreme Court in 1842. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was designed to strengthen the previous law, which was felt by southern states to be inadequately enforced. This update created harsher penalties and set up a system of commissioners that promoted favoritism towards owners of enslaved people and led to some formerly enslaved people being recaptured. For an escaped person, the northern states were still considered a risk. Meanwhile, Canada offered Black people the freedom to live where they wanted, sit on juries, run for public office, and more. And efforts of extradition had largely failed. Some Underground Railroad operators based themselves in Canada and worked to help the arriving fugitives settle in. Harriet Tubman was the most famous conductor for the Underground Railroad. Born an enslaved woman named Araminta Ross, she took the name Harriet, Tubman was her married name, when in 1849 she escaped a plantation in Maryland with 2 of her brothers. They returned a couple weeks later, but Tubman left again on her own shortly after, making her way to Pennsylvania. Tubman later returned to the plantation on several occasions to rescue family members and others. On her 3rd trip, she tried to rescue her husband, but he'd remarried and refused to leave. Distraught, Tubman reported a vision of God, after which she joined the Underground Railroad and began guiding other escaped slaves to Maryland. Tubman regularly took groups of escapees to Canada, distrusting the United States to treat them well. Most Underground Railroad operators were ordinary people, farmers and business owners, as well as ministers. Some wealthy people were involved, such as Gerrit Smith, a millionaire who twice ran for president. In 1841, Smith purchased an entire family of enslaved people from Kentucky and set them free. One of the earliest known people to help fugitive enslaved people was Levi Coffin, a Quaker from North Carolina. He started around 1813 when he was just 15 years old. Coffin said that he learned their hiding places and sought them out to help and move them along. Eventually, they began to find their way to him. Coffin later moved to Indiana and then Ohio and continued to help escaped enslaved people wherever he lived. Formerly enslaved person and famed writer Frederick Douglass hid fugitives in his home in Rochester, New York, helping 400 escapees make their way to Canada. Former fugitive Reverend Jermaine Logren, who lived in neighboring Syracuse, helped 1,500 escapees go north. William Still was a prominent Philadelphia citizen who had been born to fugitive enslaved parents in New Jersey. An associate of Tubman's, Still also kept a record of his activities in the Underground Railroad and was able to keep it safely hidden until after the Civil War, when he published them, offering one of the clearest accounts of Underground Railroad activity at the time. Abolitionist John Brown was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, during which time he established the League of Gileadites, devoted to helping fugitive enslaved people get to Canada. He has been referred to in recent times as America's first terrorist in national archives. Brown would play many roles in the abolition movement, most famously leading a raid on established the League of Gileadites to create an armed force to make its way into the Deep South and free enslaved people by gunpoint. Brown's men were defeated, and Brown was hanged for treason in 1859. Now, Harriet Tubman once again played a significant part by leading intelligence operations and fulfilling a command role in the Union Army operations to rescue the emancipated enslaved people. The Underground Railroad ceased operations about 1863 during the Civil War. In reality, its work moved above ground as part of the Union effort against the Confederacy.
It's not about what you do when people are around. It's about what you do when people are not around. If you fail, I fail. But together, we will succeed. In order for me to bring out the best in you, I will be the best.
Welcome back to another episode of 28 Days of Color, presented by S.T.E.A.M Engine Academy. Today's topic, color and fitness. We're here with Coach Jackson to talk about how fitness affects our community. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Staying in place, staying safe. So I want to ask you, how did you get into the fitness field? What inspired you to do that?
The way I got in the fitness field was through sports. So um, when I was young, I always played sports, and I knew I wanted to play sports professionally. So I started to watch a lot of the professional athletes at the time that were playing sports, and I tried to figure out what they did to be great. And all of the athletes that were playing professionally worked out. So um, that was what inspired me to start working out. I wanted to actually be the best that I possibly can be. So
All right, that's a good place to start. Where are you training now?
now I'm actually training at Crunch Fitness. Um, I've been there now for about 10 years. I've been there since 2010. So,
Very nice, very nice. And with everything happening with COVID, are you in the gym right now?
no, so with everything that's happened with COVID, it actually allowed me to kind of branch off, and I started to train people at the parks. I started doing more home visits. I had to get creative with things that I was doing. I had to train some people in garages, and so it didn't stop what we were doing. We just got creative with it, and I actually grew a different love for what I do. So
Very nice. Sometimes we do have those silver linings in this pandemic. I will
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
And what are some of the challenges that we face in the Black community just getting into fitness for ourselves or even as a career?
Yeah, some of the challenges are um, definitely, I think a lot of the challenges when you start talking about that is we really don't come from households that um, our parents were um, workout warriors or things like that. A lot of times we come from backgrounds where our parents might have had two jobs, they might be working three jobs, and you know, none of them are actually working out. So I know personally, in my own family, nobody actually worked out when I was growing up. So the only people that were working out were the athletes again. So um, I think a lot of it is we just don't have very many examples of people working out.
And that makes a lot of sense. We've got to start somewhere and it has to start at home, right? And so with that, how can families implement that fitness into their household? How can we get those students, those kids starting out early?
Well, I think one of the main ways that we can actually get the kids to start working out early is to change their diet and start to just teach them some of the things that happen when you don't eat healthy, and then we can actually start to teach them a lot of the positives that come from eating healthy and working out.
Mhm.
A lot of times we just don't know, So um, some things that we can do is, you can just start going on walks. You can go on walks. You can do, body weight exercises at home. You can do squats in your own home with your kids. You can teach them how to do push-ups. You can teach them how to do sit-ups. Um, I think a lot of times we think that it's just not what we do. You know what I mean? I don't work out. I'm not a, I don't have no need to work out. But I think that everybody should work out. It's very important, especially when you start talking about longevity. You're going to
Right.
either, one way or another, you're going to end up paying for it. So you might pay for it up front with paying for training or paying for a gym membership, or you pay for it down the road in medical bills and things like that. So
Right. And which one would you rather have? I mean, they say black don't crack, but we've got to take care of the whole package,
correct.
not just one thing.
I would prefer to pay for it up front so I can have a better quality of life. Right.
Right.
So everybody that's working out and doing some of those things, they have a better quality of life. And it's been, studies show that you're a lot more successful. You think clearer, you sleep better, you feel better on the inside. Some of those things. I know that, me personally with my clients, my main thing is not how their body looks. A lot of times clients come in and they say, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, or, I want a six pack or whatever else. And I just tell them that we're just going to commit, to actually doing the best that we can. And we want to just gradually get better every day, just a little bit better every day. And once you start feeling better on the inside, then I've done my job. The outside is going to come. But once we can all start to feel better on the inside and know that we're doing everything that we can on our end to actually be better and be the best that we can be, I noticed that everybody start having a lot of good results. They start feeling better about who they are and what they're doing. Helps with all that stuff.
Very well said. I agree. And, just to keep going with that discussion of, implementation in the home and really getting things started, what are those differences that you see? I know that you work with some that are Black people in the Black community, some in the white community, other nationalities. What are some of the differences you see in the way they implement fitness into their lives?
Some of the differences that I see is when I actually started training, I realized that it was my clients. I had 95% that were every other race other than Black, and I've noticed that the reason why they've been training for so long is because their parents trained, or their parents had trainers, and their parents been working out for however long, and it was almost like they knew something that everybody else didn't know. And I think that they actually did. I mean, they've been able to prioritize fitness, right? And that's been going on for a very long time. I think just now we're starting to see more African Americans start to actually work out, or to try to work out, or to try to eat healthy. But I noticed that with the African American community, the only ones that were really working out were the athletes. Mm-hmm. And I know I continue to harp on that, but it's true. We didn't work out, and we didn't eat healthy. And I think a lot of that probably had to do too with finances and what we felt that we had to prioritize first, what we had to spend our money on. So
that makes sense. Yeah, and that's another one of those topics that we have to tackle, figuring out how we can get to a point where we can access those things that are so necessary that other communities are getting to access, right? And, keeping with that, now that you've, been in this field for so long, what is something that you're proud of that you've done in this field?
There's so many things that I'm proud of. I know I'm proud that I remember when I came to Crunch Fitness, I was at that time the first Black trainer at my location, and I had just finished playing football, and when I had started, I had one certification. And I was the lowest level trainer that they offered. And since then, I've been there now, like I said, for about 10 years. And since then, I've been the #1 trainer nationwide in the company for the last 8 years. So behind me, you can see some of these big checks up here, and what those checks are for the #1 trainer in the nation for Crunch Fitness. So I'm very proud, just because it's actually helped me be able to go back to where I'm from and share with all the young kids that this is some of the stuff that you can also accomplish, and it doesn't have to come from just playing sports. You still can get an education and you can also be very successful in the fitness industry, and you can be the first, whatever, black girl, boy, to do exactly what I've done. um, I know as far as being the number one trainer in the nation, it's never been no one before I started. It was never no one to finish even in the top three, ever. And so now, yeah, it's been 8 years straight that I've been able to day in and day out motivate myself first and do what I need to do so I can have an opportunity to help others be the best version of themselves that they can be. So I'm very proud of that, and now I have somewhere around 20 certifications, certified in pretty much everything that it is to be certified in, and I think that that's very important because what I don't want is when I first started training, it seemed like everybody looked at me as just an ex-professional athlete who is just big, like, okay. And then they looked at other trainers as more knowledgeable or more educated than I was, because they were able to use that they had more certifications than I did at the time, because they wasn't as fit as I was, or whatever it was, and they had to say what separated them from me.
Right.
And I knew after that first year, my first year, I made President's Club, and I didn't know what Trainer of the Year, none of that stuff was. I just made President's Club. And when I went to that President's Club banquet, that was when I learned what the West Coast Trainer of the Year was, what the Trainer of the Year for the company was. And I remember telling the people that was presenting at that time, hey, next year, I'll be up here getting West Coast Trainer of the Year, and my third year, I will be Trainer of the Year in the whole company. And they looked at me and said, yeah, okay. I remember that. I remember it like it was yesterday. That next year, I was second in the company. And then that third year, I was Trainer of the Year in the whole company, and I never looked back. And all I've been doing since then is just gradually educating myself to where I can continue to have clients that are doctors, lawyers, CEOs, who are also very educated and professionals in their field, but I want them to respect me as a professional in my field. So I'm very, very proud of that, the work that I've put into this and how I've been rewarded from the work that I've put into it. So.
Wow. I commend you. That's incredible. I'm still on like 20 certifications. I didn't even know that there's that many to go through. Like, oh my goodness, that's immense. And, I heard that you mentioned that you were able to take it back to where you came from and kind of share with those guys, like, hey, you can be successful in this field. So I want to know, is there anything else you've done in the community to kind of spread that awareness about fitness?
Yeah, actually, I actually went to McClimates High School in West Oakland, and I've worked with a few teachers there that brought me in just to kind of talk about fitness, talk about the importance of fitness, and I think it was more of me wanting to give back, and really it was I kind of just put it all together, from the fitness to just teaching the kids to just educate themselves at that age, things that I didn't have at that age. I didn't have someone to come in to tell me that this is really what you can do, and them be an example because they did it or they were doing it. So, now I just do everything that I possibly can to be a positive role model day in and day out, So I know it's a lot of people who look up to me that, I do not want to let down. And I feel that, I'm one of God's chosen ones, that he's using me, he's working, through me. And I just want to make sure I just do the best that I can to make my family proud and lead by example. So
I think that you are. And the same way that you said they look up to you, when I was working at the gym folding towels and you treated me like an equal and spoke to me like a professional, and, for me, it was nice to see you in there too. I was the only Black person on the front desk,
and I ran it with excellence, the same way you trained with excellence. So, you can add me to that list of people who look up to you. And I'm just so pleased to have you on our show and to speak to our students and our viewers, because I wanted to spread the message from Coach Jackson.
Yeah,
Is,
thank you very
is there anything else that you want to share just from Coach Jackson?
Yeah. Really, I think that it's just important for all of us to continue to just believe in each other and you know give each other nothing but love and spread love and do our best that we can to just be positive. If you hear somebody speaking negative about someone else, just kindly let them know that, it's not necessary to speak about somebody without them being here. And then, continue to do what we can to just help people understand that, health is wealth, right? I don't care how much money you have. It means nothing if you're not healthy. You know, just to I think it's very important for our community to understand that a lot of stuff can be prevented with them working out. We have, what is it, diabetes and all of these other diseases that can be cured just with, starting to eat healthy and start working out. And the thing is, everybody thinks that working out is something that you gotta, I gotta go run 10 miles and I gotta run 10 miles every day, or, I gotta go lift all these heavy weights. And that's completely wrong. You literally can take, 10 minutes out of your day to stretch. Today, one day you can just do 10 minutes worth of stretching. The next day you can do a 10-minute walk. The next day you can also do, 20 squats in your own home and 20 sit-ups. It's just starting somewhere. You just have to start somewhere, and we have to start moving more, right? It's important. We have to start moving more, and we got to stop making excuses. It's no reason to make excuses on why you can or why you can't do something, right? I think everybody is dealt their hand, and we just have to make the best of it. But I think that whatever it is that you really want to do in life, you can do if you're willing to sacrifice and you're willing to give up something to get something, right? So it just kind of depends on how bad you want it. But I think that we can be as good as we really want to be. And I think that a lot of people are intimidated of us for so many reasons. And we allow that to actually sometimes seep into us, and we start to believe a lot of the negative things that people say about us or think about us, right?
We take it to heart.
Take it to heart instead of just proving them different and proving ourselves different. We know that we're all God's children, and nobody can say nothing about us that's true. That you can't believe everything that people are saying and whatever else. I can go on and on about that, but yeah. So, thank you. I really, really appreciate you having me.
I'm so glad I was finally able to get a hold of you, and I waited for this interview. I was going to wait for JJ. I appreciate having you on here, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
Please, let's stay in touch and have me again. I appreciate it.
Will do. Take care.
All right, see you later.
Close out the show, we're going to read a story about our newest First Lady. The story is called Kamala and Maya's Big Idea, written by Mina Harris, her niece, and illustrated by Ana Ramirez Gonzalez. Find out what happens when these girls decide to turn an empty courtyard into a beautiful oasis. Kamala and Maya's Big Idea. You know what should be out there? Kamala asked her sister Maya. Us? Said Maya. A slide, said Kamala. And a swing, Maya added. A playground, they shouted together. Kamala and Maya had an idea. It was a very good idea. And a very big idea. They were going to need help. Wouldn't it be great if there was a playground in the courtyard? Maya said. That does sound nice, Mama agreed. How can we make that happen? Kamala asked. Well, I suppose the first step would be to ask the landlord, the person who owns the building. So Kamala wrote a letter and Maya drew a picture, and they went to see the landlord to discuss their idea. The landlord thought about it for less than a second. I don't think so. No. That was not the answer they wanted, but they weren't ready to give up. That night, the sisters tried to think of ways to turn a no into a yes. They asked the other kids in the building if they wanted a playground in the courtyard. Did they? Of course they did. And they had ideas too. Let's have a teeter-totter, and a basketball hoop, and flowers. So Kamala wrote a longer letter, and they went to see the landlord together. Dear landlord, right now the courtyard of our building is empty and no one uses it. If there were swings, kids could fly high. If there was a sandbox, kids could build. If there was a slide, kids could go so far, so fast. Can you build it, please? The landlord thought about it for less than 5 seconds. A project this big is expensive. We don't have the money for that. Do your parents know you're here? This was not the answer they wanted, but Kamala was not ready to give up. If we ask our parents and do it all ourselves, can we fix up the courtyard? The landlord thought about that for a whole 10 seconds. Finally, he shrugged. If you can do it yourselves, sure. This wasn't exactly the answer they wanted, but it was a start. The kids all spoke to their parents about their ideas for the courtyard. They hung up posters and knocked on neighbors' doors. But they got the same answers from everyone. I'm sorry. Wow, that is a big job. Wish I could help. Which they knew meant no, no, no. But then Mr. Green stopped to talk. I work construction, and I could maybe get some scrap lumber and some sand for your sandbox. Really? Kamala said. Yes, exclaimed Maya. Okay, I'll try. It wasn't a yes, but right now, maybe was the sweetest word they had ever heard. Maybe gave them hope. The next weekend, maybe turned into yes. The kids all helped measure and Mr. Green cut the boards. Then they sanded and hammered and sanded some more. Then came the actual sand. They were all thanking Mr. Green when Miss Lopez stopped to talk. I work at a garage. Maybe they have an extra tire for a teeter-totter. In the weeks that followed, lots of I don't knows turned into maybes and then yeses. No one could do everything, but everyone could do something. Kamala and Maya wanted everyone to celebrate the new playground, so they made another big poster inviting their neighbors to a potluck party. There were hot dogs and hummus, spicy chicken and potato salad, strawberries and brownies, and lemonade. Miss Flores set up a sprinkler for the kids to run through. Mr. Green brought the music. Kamala admired the new playground, but she noticed there was still one thing missing. No one knew how to make a slide, but Miss Flores knew where they might buy one. I teach at Emerson Elementary, and they are redoing their playground. Maybe we could buy the old slide. This was a different kind of maybe. A how can we afford that maybe? But now, everyone was trying to find a way to turn maybe into a yes. These brownies are delicious. Maybe we could have a bake sale. We can all bring toys and books, have a sidewalk sale. No one could do everything, but everyone could contribute something. When the slide arrived at last, Maya and Kamala got the first ride. The landlord was impressed. "I want to shake your hands, girls," he said. "You did a good job. You all did a good job." Kamala and Maya had an idea. It was a very good idea and a very big idea. And with a lot of help, they made it happen. Hooray for Kamala and Maya! Hooray for the Purr sisters! What's next? Kamala, looking up, said, "I'm wondering what the view is like from the roof." Growing up, I loved hearing stories about seeing old pictures of my mom, Maya Harris, and Aunt Kamala Harris as young girls in the 1970s. There's one picture in particular of my mom and aunt that I love. My mom is the one in the bandana, my aunt is the bell-bottom jeans, and they're staring at the camera with fierce determination. They look like they've just conquered the world. That's how I perceived them when I was younger. As I've gotten older, it's only become more true. They would go on to achieve great things, both as public interest lawyers dedicated to improving their communities. They always made sure I knew I could do anything too. A specific anecdote from their childhood always sticks with me, how they worked together to turn the unused courtyard in their apartment building into an area for kids to play. It was an early lesson in the power of organizing and an example of what my grandmother, Kamala Harris, a scientist and civil rights activist, always reminded us. Each of us has a part to play, no matter how small. By the time I had 2 daughters myself, I knew I had to write a book inspired by that story. This picture book is based on those events, but it incorporates fictional characters and details that draw on my own imaginative interpretation of what happened. I wanted to memorialize it not only for my girls, but also for children across the world. I was so lucky to grow up with such strong female role models, my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt. I hope this book inspires a new generation of activists to know that they can be effective agents of change if they think creatively, engage their communities, and never ever give up. The end.
One more again. Mas não. Mas não. Mas não. Na viagem. Espesso. Na viagem. Espesso. Mas não vou sem te chamar na viagem. Espesso na viagem. Espesso na viagem. Espesso na viagem. Espesso mas não vou sem te chamar.